All right, fantastic. Looks like that's coming through. Alrighty, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming along today. It's been great to have you along and get to share some of the new stuff we've been doing and how that might be able to help you as well. First things first, as we've already been jumping in and using the chat box. So with questions and answers, as you've got them, fire them through. We've got Alina there moderating as well, and I'm obviously chatting, and we can just sort of address it as we go. So there'll also be a session at the end to cover off anything we've already done that you might have questions on or anything else that surrounds that. And what I'll get you to do, just to and really kick things off, is if everyone can type in, what is it in your business right now, the biggest frustration or the biggest problem that you're trying to get through? Is it needing to get more sales or more leads? Is it not anything? If it's everything, just let me know. Type in the chat box, and that'll give us a bit more of a context and a framework to present from today. While that stuff's coming through, I'll also jump in and let you know that for everyone who jumps on today, I'm going to send out a special bonus that I've recently written, Escaping the Rat Race, 5 ways to double your revenue working less hours with clients you love. So this is a really important, I guess, perspective to be working from. And that's why I've put down everything that I've picked up in the last few years consulting and wanting to make sure that Ninjodo helps you sort of realize this in the business and not be stuck, working 100-hour weeks that don't get you anywhere, chasing leads that aren't really the important ones and tire kickers. So for things coming through now, we've got task management and team. We've got managing resources. Sandy, managing resources, is that within Ninjodo or is that actual team members internally? And I'll kick on through. So we'll just highlight the basic things we're going to be going through today is to make sure that we understand why we're doing what we're doing and why we're releasing these types of features. So you're going to be able to find out how to get a permanent, real-time bird's eye view of your business, because that's critical. We want to be able to see that from a sales perspective, from a cash flow perspective, from tasks, reminders, meetings, everything that's going on. If you can't look at it, your whole business holistically, you end up missing things. We also want to cover off how you can start getting back some time. And I don't just mean, minutes here, minutes there. I mean hours and even weeks across the space of a year. Every little bit that you can shave 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there is really going to add up over time, and find that you can either be doing more if that's the way you want to go, or you can actually start knocking off earlier and spending more time with your family and perhaps going and getting out in the sun on these beautiful days. Next, we also want to cover off, working more efficiently. It's really easy for us to just get into a groove, work from our inboxes, work from within our heads, and find that, this is how I've always done it. I do it really quickly now because I've been doing it for a while. But if we can identify a few different ways of actually working that are a little bit more efficient, a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more structured, and give a good crack at that for a week or 2 weeks, you can find that you can be having some incredible savings in time and in efficiency just by a few tweaks here and there. And then finally, last but definitely not least, we want to make sure that you're able to start increasing your conversions and your sales. And all the way throughout there is going to be task management, working more efficiently, saving time, getting better at what you're doing. So how are we actually going to do this? We're going to look at creating a bit more structure around what you do. And this can be from a sales perspective, first time you're getting a lead come through, right through to actually getting the sale, winning it, assuming that this person's then become a customer, and then continuing that on through the process of actually delivering the product or the service to that client, and then even beyond that with follow-up testimonials, making sure that the customer had a good experience and that you can even start getting referrals from it. We want to learn how to move much faster in the business. A lot of what we do day to day, we can get bogged down in admin. We can get bogged down in just too many things to do in a process. So we want to figure out how can we actually start to streamline this so that we can get a lot quicker. And also when we are very, very busy, to make sure that we're not missing things or losing track of things. We're going to be doing that by definitely starting to see what we can automate and what we can standardize. If you start with some structure and you start to standardize things, you can then identify which things can start to be automated. We want to look at better execution and follow-up. So a lot of people, when they think of follow-up, maybe just put this in the chat. What comes to mind when you think of follow-up? Is it to do with sales? Is it to do with customers? And within your business and within what you do day to day, how much follow-up do you actually feel that you do? And if so, what type of follow-up is that? Things we can be thinking of is actually when you get a new inquiry, you've got to follow up with that new inquiry. When you respond to that inquiry, you want to make sure that you're following up, make sure they got it, make sure they come back to you and keep them moving along your process. We definitely don't want to be in a position where we are sending out quotes or sending out invoices or sending out information that people are asking for and then leaving it up to them to continue the relationship or continue the timeline. We want to make sure that at all these really important points, we're actually following up. And then we're also going to show you our new mobile platform that we've been able to start releasing. And this is going to be coming out in stages, but you can actually get access to the first one very shortly. So I'll show you how we can do that as well. And follow up with customers and develop the relationship. Fantastic, Alison. Okay, so step one, we want to look at defining your sales flows and your workflows. Really need to look at getting this stuff out of your head. As I was saying before, it's so easy just to keep operating. It's in my head. I know what's got to be done. I can tell people if they need to ask me. But as long as it's in your head, it can't be in anyone else's head. And that's going to mean that you can't really scale as a business. It also means that there's no predefined set of steps. What is it that you do with your customers? What is it that you do with your leads? There should be a very clear and documented set of steps that you take people through so that when you get really, really busy and you realize that you've forgotten to go back to a lead, you can see where they're at and then where they need to go to next. And there's no question about it. And this is really, really helpful when you start to grow your team or even grow your customer base, that you have structure that you can be putting them through, and there is guidelines that people can see and follow along without constantly needing to bottleneck through you. We want to look at the difference between a sales flow and an actual workflow for service product delivery. So sales flow, we're talking about everything up until the point that that person becomes a customer, before you give them your product, before you give them your service. And then from that point forward is actually the delivery of that product or service. And when that part's even finished, you can open up a new one for customer satisfaction, repurchasing, things like that. You also need to identify at each of the steps that we do come up with, what needs to happen. Now, this can be from a couple of different perspectives. What do you need to do day to day in your business, in your process? When I get to a brand new lead, what do? Do I send an email? Do I send do a phone call? Do I need to have a meeting? Would I send them out a form to fill in and get some more information? What are those steps, not just for you, but also your team, if you're more than just the solopreneur? And whereabouts in that process do you actually want money to exchange hands? It's very traditional in business, especially the service-based businesses, to get money at the end of doing the work. And that can be a really long time for a small business owner, especially if you've got 7, 14, or 30-day terms for payments of invoices. We want to start to identify and look at this as your business, which it is, but really make the decision, where would you rather have the money exchanging hands? Would you want all of it at the beginning, if you're comfortable with that, and if you can get to that point, fantastic. It de-risks your entire business. Would you do you prefer to leave it at the very end and just carry the risk yourself and make sure you've done the job and the client's happy and then get the money? Doing so means that you've got the added complexity of chasing up invoices, following up on payments, making sure that that stuff gets done. And if there's no one else in your business to handle that, that's got to be you. And that's time that you could have better spent on business development or customer satisfaction. Do you want to mix it up a bit and put a little bit at the beginning, a little bit in the middle, a little bit at the end, so that both you and the client are, both fit in, everyone's got skin in the game, you're all at the table working effectively together? As we go through this, we want to think about what are the types of things that you can standardize and automate in your processes. Is it emails? So every inquiry that comes in, standardized email. Thanks for your inquiry. I'll get someone to follow up with you, or if that's just you. Welcoming a new customer into the business. customer satisfaction, customer dissatisfaction. If someone says they're really frustrated and you want to find out, what is it that they are frustrated about and maybe how can you help? So think of the different types of emails that you're sending again and again and again in the business and figure out, okay, let's get these together in some sort of template or canned response, and I can then fire those off and tweak them as I send them. There's definitely going to be some action items, whether you have a very stock standardized process, it's exactly the same for everybody, or whether it's a very customized solution and it's just got a little bit that's actually repeat work every single time. There will be items that you need to phone calls, set up projects, files, documents, send this out, send that out, get this from the client. All of those types of things we want to start to pick out so that we can build that into our workflow and then start automating those reminders. Sending out invoices, you have to do it at the same time almost every time. So we want to identify what those points are. Checklists, if you're not already, start thinking about how much you're asking your clients for different types of things. If you're asking for files, questions and answers, you may be doing this as part of a face-to-face meeting back in your initial discovery phase of whether you can help this person or not. So have a think about what are those bits of information or things that you need to get every single time you're dealing with someone, and think about getting them into a checklist. And you can do this with a number of products like Wufoo is a good online tool. Google Apps, people can use Google Forms, and you can build this checklist and actually email it to people, have them fill it in and get that information digitally. And that's going to save you a ton of time because you might have that link in an email template, which just click, send, and you're able to get everything that you need. And then also it's in digital format, so you can cut it and paste it and put it wherever you need to. And then think about, what else? Every business is different. Think about what else can you standardize or automate such that if someone else came into your business, you could show them what that sales flow or that workflow looks like and see all the tasks there, and you could actually start assigning things to them instead of you. Okay, so with follow-up, we had, Sandy's got follow-up at every stage of the sale and process, which is fantastic. Alison mentioned it with customers and building a relationship. Here are some of the ideas that come to mind for me. Every time you get a new inquiry, you want to be doing follow-up. If you send out a quote, you want to follow that up. If you send out an invoice, you want to follow that up and make sure it's been paid. If you're asking for information or documents, you want to follow that up and make sure, one, they got the request so that you're not waiting for an email that went missing, and two, that they're actually doing it and they'll bring it back in a certain time frame. When you're delivering your actual products or services, once you've done that, follow them up. Make sure they received everything. Make sure everything was in order. Make sure they're happy that everything came through okay. Make sure that they're left with a great taste in their mouth to actually want to be able to give you a testimonial or a referral. Then when you actually are asking people for testimonials and referrals, follow that up as well. People are more than willing to do this stuff for you, especially when you deliver good customer service. But I guarantee everybody on this call and anybody watching the replay is going to be thinking, I don't have enough time to do all of this stuff. Just like you don't, they don't as well. So following up helps remind people that, yes, they had good intentions and they do want to act on them. All right, so those are the things that we're going to be going through, and the new feature that we're going to be highlighting here in Ninjodo today to illustrate how we can do all that is the workflows on the resource section. So before we jump in, if I can get people to, in the chat box, just give me something to work with and I'll create these examples in Ninjodo Live. So tell me, do you sell a product or a service? What is it that you actually sell? And how are you dealing with people in the sales process and in the actual client or delivery process? Is it a face-to-face meeting? Is it all online via emails, or maybe you don't do much communication at all because you don't need to? Is it phone calls or is it something else? So you can just jump over to the chat box, punch those in. One by one is fine, or all together. And then I'll jump into the system now and we'll actually have a look at how we can do this in Ninjodo. Those of you who don't know, getting into the system is very simple, just ninjodo.com. And we want to click on login up the top of the screen. And I'm going to jump in with a dummy account here so we can muck around as much as we like. Okay, and so stuff coming through now. Karina, she's got virtual reception services. So if you can elaborate on that a bit more, Karina, how are people, what's your sales process to face, or is it via the phone? Suanne sells physical products, starting with a measure and quote. On site with the client, are they coming into a showroom, that type of stuff? Okay, Alison's got products, needs education for the benefits. So there's a big education process in her sales. She's got to do a lot of face-to-face and then a lot more communication and follow-up after that initial contact point. So it's quite a bit of a mix here. And as you can imagine, everybody runs their business differently. One booking service would be completely different to another booking service. One showroom product sales would be completely different to another. So when you're using your systems in your business, whether it's Ninjodo or something else, you want to make sure that it's flexible enough for you to be able to create your processes, your streamline, your funnels, the way that you need to, and adjust that as the business calls for it. And think about when you go to do this, if you haven't done it for a while, it's a good time to take a step back, look at it and say, is there something that I can be doing easier? Is there something else I could automate? Is there something that I'm having to retype again and again that I could put into an email template or a checklist? Think about those things and hopefully they can start bubbling to the surface. Okay, and Philippa there with business consulting, fantastic. And most contact comes from word of mouth, Facebook page, and via phone. So mix of meeting with people and actually talking to them. So it's a lot of high contact. All right. So within Ninjodo, there are two areas that we're going to handle this. There's the sales side of things, and then there's the actual delivery of that project or that service or that sale. So from within the activity center, some of you may be familiar with this, some not. We've got a couple of different things that we can do. And the Activity Center is designed to show you all of your sales flows or workflows within Ninjodo and within your business, obviously. So we might have a flow for a sales process. And as you can see, I'm looking at one here. So step one of this sales flow is when someone comes in, they make an inquiry, we put them into the sales flow and they're treated as a new lead. And then from there, step two, we want to do some sort of qualifying with them. So this could be done a number of different ways. You might do this via phone, just email, the checklist, face-to-face meetings. In some way, you're going to get in contact with that person, get more information, start the ball rolling. Step three in here, in this example, we've added an extra layer. So once they've done some qualification, you might have some people that know they're not the right person for us or we're not the right person for them. And so you might need to then move them out of their actual sales process. At step three, though, if qualifying went well, you might need to have an additional phone call or a meeting and really sort of drill down into that. Have those face-to-face conversations, do the discovery session, get those checklists filled out. And actually, those checklists that were mentioned before are actually things that if you don't get them to fill out by themselves, you can actually do it with them in the actual meeting over the phone. From there, you might have a proposal that you need to send across, or you might be sending a quote or anything to that effect. From there, we want to identify, okay, I've got a quote that I've sent. And then rather than just have one stage that means quoting, you want to think of it like a milestone. So I've sent across my quote. I know that, let's say I've put Brad now, I've gotten the proposal together for him and I've sent it across. And so I've moved him now to the quote sent step. I wouldn't want to just have that as a plain quote only, because I need to know, looking at this page, this is my bird's eye view of my business and my sales funnel. Has Brad received the quote and has he actually accepted it and sent it back to me and agreed to move forward? So breaking these two types of steps up is a good way for you to see that. And if I had, say, 40 people in my sales funnel, having that kind of breakdown can be really, really handy. I know that I've sent out quotes, so I don't need to do anything there except follow up, of course. But these people, Lucius and anyone else on my step 6 row, these are the people that are now good to go and they need to have invoices sent out because that's the next step. And that can be done by me or it could be done by anybody else in my team. So what we're going to do now is, this is an idea of a sales funnel. You might have one that's a lot shorter. It may only be 2 steps. And then once they reach a certain point of, yes, ready to go, we're going to go ahead and move them into an actual workflow. So what I'll do is come into the back of Ninjodo and we'll actually start fresh and go through the process of creating a new sales flow and a new workflow. So let me have a look just at what people have got in here. All right, we might do Sue-Ann. So she's got on-site visits and a showroom, and then she's got the measure and quote parts. That's her initial stage. Sue-Ann, can you let me know in the chat what happens post that? So you've got the measure and quote. I imagine that's probably the final part of that, unless there needs to be any adjustment before you kick things off. What does the client do to then say, yes, I'm ready to go and I want to go ahead with this quote? And then what sort of things happen from there? So I've gone into my backend admin area. I've gone to drop-downs and workflows, and I'm now going to create a new sales flow. So we'll say new sales flow. Now, if you were doing this in your system, you wouldn't put new, you just put sales flow, but I'm going to do it this way. And I'm going to put a little bit more, so showroom. So this is just for my own reference for description. I want to see for all customers needing, measure and quote before commencement. Now, next option down, we've got, is the flow for a person or is it for a resource? So quick segue to jump over. Resources are where you actually track the project or the sale itself. How much money is involved, who's involved, when is it happening, that type of stuff. So once the sales process is complete and the person's become a customer, we want to start moving that into the resource phase. So we'll set this one up as a sales flow just with the straight person. And I'm going to do that. And the very first step could be inquiry, could be walk-in, could be call-in, could be online website inquiry. I'm just going to put, I'll say initial contact received. So this could be really in detail, it could be really vague. Hi, can someone call me? Or, hi, I have a house here and I need to get 35 windows installed. I'd like this, I'd like that. It really depends. So as soon as someone comes in with that, I'm going to pop them in this new sales funnel and they'll be sitting here at that initial contact received. I want to then make contact with them. So I'm probably going to do a phone call at this time because we don't know where they're at and we want to make sure that we're being efficient in our business and not sending someone out there if it's just a tire kicker. And I might just adjust this to be a little bit more detailed. So I'm going to make it a discovery call. Once that happens, I'm going to get an idea from the client whether they're the right fit for us, whether we're the right fit for them, the budgets, do they align up, things like that. I may want to get a little bit more information. If I didn't do it over the phone call, I might want to have a checklist phase in here. Checklist for job fit. So I just want to get them to answer these questions, do a little bit of work, put some skin in the game, some time to tell me useful, important information that I need. Now this, you could choose to do the call first and send this later, or you may actually want to get the inquiry, send the checklist first to ask all those questions that you need to know. What's the budget? What type of product are they looking for? And then once you have those answers, you can have a discovery call that's a lot more useful because you've got important bits of information. From here in Sue-Ann's example, we've got to do check measure for deposits. We've got the showroom. So what we'll do is we want to treat this as it could happen that they come into the showroom or we go out and do it on site with them. Actually, no, likely they might come in to do a showroom visit. But we're still going to have to go out and measure their house anyway. So showroom visit. Not every step in your sales funnel has to be completed by every single person. So it's okay if there's a step that only some people hit. You can jump people over other steps. Okay, and then we're going to do an on-site measure and quote. Now, again, similar to the quote being sent and the quote being accepted, I'm going to think of booking in this measure and quote. It may get booked in and then for some reason it gets cancelled. So I'm actually going to break this up into two things. On-site measure and quote booked. and say measure and quote complete. Okay. And in that process, I'd imagine, Suen, either the quote's being given to the person right there in the meeting, or it may need to be clarified back at the office for materials or something and then sent out again later. So either way, we can do quote sent to the client, whether you're physically handing that over or whether it's sent by email. And then we'll have quote accepted by the actual person. So all of these steps are happening before we've even got commitment from a client. Once we get the quote accepted, that technically completes the sales process. You've got in here check measure for deposits. So is that there are deposits that are getting paid when you start the job up? Either way, I think that's a good idea, that you are picking up some sort of money from the client to get this whole thing rolling, make sure materials are covered, make sure potentially even some of the labor is covered, and that you're picking up your profit perhaps at the end once it's all installed and everything's good. So now if I jump back to the activity center, I'm just going to reload that page. And we can see now that we've got a new sales funnel there. What I will also do is try and work on that automation. So I want, as I've got all my different leads coming in, they're coming in for different reasons, different products. I'm going to have a mixture of customers in here. So if I look into my people area, I've got a mixture of customers, new leads. I could have suppliers, partners. Any contacts that you're dealing with in the business are going to be in here, and using the groups and labels, you can start to segment them. So what I'd like is for some of these things to be a little bit more automatic based on where people are in my sales funnel. So if I go back to complete the setup process of my sales funnel, and this may feel a little bit complicated so far, but don't worry. This is something you do one time and then just tweak it a little bit over time. You could start nice and simple and just have 3 or 4 steps that you walk people through. And as you start using Ninjodo, as you start walking people through a structured sales process, you'll see, hey, I keep doing this thing manually, but I know I can do it automatically. So I'll come in here, and I want every single person that gets put in this sales funnel to be tagged as a new lead. So what I'm going to do is come over here and add them, put the new lead tag on them anytime someone hits this step. Cool. And if we think about the task automation, so I've put them in the sales funnel, I've just seen their inquiry come through. What's the next thing that's got to happen? So we had the checklist getting sent out. So someone's physically got to send that email. It could be anybody in the team, but so that I don't forget that that's got to happen, I'm going to have a task created, and I'll say, all right, this is just a basic to-do for me. Send checklist for job fit. It can happen anytime that you need it to happen. So as soon as an inquiry comes in and I put them in the funnel, I just want this reminder to be set straight away. I don't need to delay it for any reason. Times when I might want to have something happen, 5 days later, 90 days later, could be in a longer sales cycle. If you have people that are talking to you over 3 or 6 months before they can make a purchasing decision, or perhaps later in the process after you've finished giving them a solution and you want to then go and send 2 weeks later and ask them for a testimonial. So you might have those types of delays in your tasks. You can assign it to anyone in your team. I'm just going to have it come to me personally. It's going to default to whoever's creating the task. All right, fantastic. So now anytime someone gets onto this sales funnel, they're going to be tagged as a new lead, and we're also going to have a task set for me to do. And what I might do now is actually change this to checklist sent for job fit. Think of it as a milestone, and I know that that's happened now, and I can leave that person there until it comes back. So what we might do now is actually go and put somebody into that funnel. So if I have a look at, say, Bruce, got a phone call with him. Let's imagine that 12 o'clock phone call was the inquiry, and I want to move him into my activity center, but I'll put him in my new sales flow in the showroom one. So Bruce has got a big building in downtown. He wants a lot of windows. We're going to have to do a big meeting here. All right, and we can now see Bruce Wayne is in the new sales funnel, and we want to make sure that we're actually getting that come through correctly. Okay, so we had, okay, initial contact received, checklist sent, discovery call, showroom visit, on-site measure and quote, complete, sent, accepted. All right, and I'm just going to save that. I'm going to put him back to initial contact received. And we can see that as soon as I've gone to put him in that funnel, that's that task that we created, and says, do you want to have this task created? Yes, I do. I want to make sure that I don't forget to do that. So that's just happened automatically. I didn't need to go and create that task. I set it up as a standardized automatic method. Now within my activity center, I can look at the business in a bird's eye view, a top-down approach. So we can see Bruce, he's a customer already, but he's also a new lead for this new sale that we're talking about. What I can do now is actually fire up an email, say, please complete following information. Hi, Bruce. Glad to hear from you. Could you please complete following checklist and send back the details for me so we can prepare for our call later in the week. And then you might insert the link. So I'm just going to grab one that I've got. Okay. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking I've got to send this to everybody, right? It's not just Bruce, and I don't want to keep typing that email every single time I need to send this. So what I'll actually do is, rather than type it one by one, I want to create it as an actual email template. So I'm going to go back into the admin area that I still had open before and come down to emails. And I want to create a new email template. And I'm just going to call this job fit checklist. So this template name, it's just for me. I need to see if I have 20 different email templates over time, I want to know which one it is so I can pick it from the list. Now what I'll do is just come back and grab all this text that I already started typing. And I'm cutting and I'm pasting. Really, really simple. So I'll get all this, copy that, and paste it. I might just add in, let me know if you have any questions. Now, one thing before I save and create this template, I've got here, hi Bruce. So that's fine when I'm emailing Bruce, but what if I use this template and send it to John? I don't want it to say, hi Bruce. So I'm actually going to just get rid of the name and come down here, and we've got some mail merge fields. Anyone that's done a mail merge for labels or letters and stuff back in the day, you'll be familiar with that. And we can actually use those from down here. So a couple of different ones. The bottom two sections are to do with me, my account, my business. That's sits into the signature. But what I actually want to do is grab some stuff related to the person that I'm emailing. So I want to get the person's first name so I can say, hi, person first name. So I'm just going to click on that, puts it up in here for me. And I'm just popping it into where I want it. I could add anything else as well. So we've got person's company, their phone number, the website, the address, things like that. But for right now, I just need to use the actual person's first name. So I'm all done. I want to save that template. And now I could do this back from Bruce's page. I could send him that email template if I wanted to. So I'd find his email address, just click on it. And down the bottom, I've actually got the option to change and I want job fit checklist. And there it is all ready to go. I can just click send. I could do that from here, or I could actually even do it from this page. So if I'm looking at my sales funnel, I can see I've got 3 or 4 people sitting here. I just need to fire off those checklists. I can come over here, click on email, grab the job fit checklist template, just do a quick double check, and I'm just going to add an extra one-liner on this particular occasion, but I wouldn't need to if I didn't want to. I'm glad to hear from you. Nice to hear Susie, his daughter, is doing so well. You please fill in, yep, all good, and click send, and away it goes. So now you're starting to see the task to send the email has been created for me. It's a reminder, I know it has to be done. The email template's been automated and standardized, so I can just click. From the time of moving anybody into this funnel, and we'll do it again just to see, we'll count how many clicks instead of typing and how much time it can really take. So I'm going to come into my people section, and let's say Clark Kent, he's also called up. He wants some more stuff for his showroom. So I'm actually going to move him into the sales funnel now. Okay, so let's count the clicks with me. 1 click, and yes, I want the checklist. 2 clicks, page reloads, tasks are set. 3 clicks, 4, 5 clicks, all good for the email. Send email, 6 clicks. And now I'm finished with my task, so I'll tick that off. And he's now no longer there. He's actually up to the 2nd step. So I'm just moving him forward in the process. So in less than 10 clicks, less than 15 seconds, I've now got my customer. So not even my customer yet. I've got a new lead in my sales funnel. The email's been sent. The checklist has been sent. I've done everything I need to do. And now I'm just waiting for him to come back. Now, we spoke before about automating that follow-up. So if I wanted to make sure that I also followed Clark up tomorrow, just in case he hadn't filled it in, I can come back to my workflows, and I want to add that task so I remember to follow him up. So I get my sales funnel open. On this step, I've sent the checklist. I want to remember to call him tomorrow in case I didn't get it back. I want to keep him moving through the process, keep that sales timeline really, really short and tight so that they're engaged and they're active. And I'm going to create a task, follow up, and I'll say follow up on checklist. And I'm going to make it 1 day later. I could just do it ASAP, in which case it will take the current time 1 day later. But maybe I want to make sure that I do all my calls in the morning. So I'm just going to say, all right, 9:30, it's a good time to get started. Save changes. All right, and that checklist is now created. Sorry, that task is now created, and it will go off when we move people to the next step. So if I move Bruce now to that next step, move him down, and there's our follow-up on checklist task created. So that's automatically prompting for me. If I'd assign that to anyone else, or if I'm not in tomorrow and I need somebody else to actually do that call, I can click on different people here, that's fine. And away we go, create the task. So really, really simple from how this can start to automate, streamline, allow you to handle a lot more inquiries when you start to ramp up your marketing, but also adding in those levels of checklists and follow-ups, really keeping it tight and a tight timeline is going to help boost your conversions because you are professional, you are structured, you're streamlined. Clients enjoy the methodical rhythm that you can build them into. But what we'll do now, let's say this all goes really swimmingly and moves further through the process, and we actually need to get into the point of delivering this stuff to our clients. So I need to make a new workflow for that. So, Anne, if you can jump in and just add in a few more points, I'll start guessing, but if you can tell me a few more of the steps that are going to happen with actually delivering doors and windows to somebody. I'm going to put it in here. So let's say window and door installation. Actually, no, I remember your business is blinds and awnings. That would be a similar set of steps that we're going to go through, different from the industry. So as I'm going through this, just think of the steps that you're going through with your own clients, even if you're doing them just off the cuff, automatically, you've done it all the time, and just think what they are, and you'll be able to set it up differently for you. So this is actually going to be a resource now. So I've dealt with the person throughout the sales process, and I'm now putting them into a job phase where I track this job, and I want to see, okay, everything that's happening there. So very first step we had at the end of the sales funnel was quote accepted. We now want to actually get a deposit from someone so that we can get some money, we get their commitment, and that officially puts them into that level of being a customer. So what we'll do here is, let's say, send deposit invoice. That's telling me that that's the step. They're sitting there. They need to be sent the actual invoice. So I'm going to create a task. So to do, it's a reminder, send invoice. And I'm going to just put 2, and it should be putting in the client's information there for me. I'll just leave it as that. It's fine. We'll do it ASAP as soon as we get confirmation. Now, I could add them to being a customer now. That could be fine. However, there is a chance that this person isn't going to pay this invoice and just goes missing on me. So what I'll do is when I get confirmation that the invoice has been paid, I'll then have them be created as a customer and no longer a new lead. So I'll add my second step, and we'll say deposit invoice paid. And when that happens, that's when I want them to be treated as a customer. So I'm adding them to that label. I'm also wanting to remove the new lead label. And back here, when I send out the invoice, I also want to add another label, invoice pending. So that's just another quick way that I can go and find anyone that I've sent an invoice to and see, okay, I've got 3 people in the system, we've sent out invoices, that tag's still on them, so they haven't paid it yet, I need to do some follow-up. Okay, so our 2 steps, send the deposit invoice, the invoice gets paid, and then from there, I imagine we're going to be booking in a visit or confirming the actual quote, make sure we've got everything there. So I'll say final, you've got their confirmation of order. And a few things might be involved with that. So it could be an on-site visit, could be a phone call to the client. Let's see, phone call, confirm order. So that's just call the client, make sure everything's correct and we understand it. We'll do that straight away. I might actually assign that to somebody else, but for this example, I'll leave it here. Once it's confirmed, we might need to do some other steps, but let's say we jump to the point of ordering all the materials. So I'm sure there's another double check in between those steps, but for now it's okay. I'm going to say materials ordered. And so that's our suppliers. They're going to send everything down. Once we get them, we've got materials received. Once we get everything that we need, there could be some sort of assembly, but we can have that, as tasks in there. We'll say installation booked with the client. And then from there, we actually do the on-site installation. And once that happens, we do a final, and then let's say job complete. So we might have to call the client or go out on site with someone to make sure it's all done. Okay, and so Sue's pumping stuff through, so I'll keep flicking back. A lot of these things could be steps within each step. We just want to make sure that's all good. So blinds and awnings installation. So send deposit, deposit paid, confirm the order, order the materials, receive the materials, book in the installation, do the installation, job complete. This could be more detailed, less detailed, whatever was going to work for you in the business. If you haven't done it before, it's much better to start simpler and get more complicated as required. So within each of these steps, we might want to add a few more things, but I think you've gotten the idea of how those tasks are getting created automatically, how those tags are happening. I might just come in here and do installation booked. So we've got confirmation of order. I'll say to do, order materials with supplier, and assign this to somebody else because it's not my job role, or it's a particular person in the team, it's their job role. And we also want to, once the materials come in, call the client and book installation with client. That'll be me, I can do that, and we'll have that ASAP. And then once the installation is booked, I need to tell people within our team, get the truck, get the materials, get any guys that you need. We're going to go out. So update team on job details. And yep, that can happen straight away. And then once the on-site installation, I'm going to add this as begun. Put in a new one. On-site installation complete. And then once it's complete, I want to have a phone call with the client. Happy. And if they're happy, I'll then move them to job complete. One more thing we need to do here is make sure that once they pay the invoice, we want to take off that label. So I am going a little bit quick here. You'll get the replay video as well, so you can pause, go back, forward, that type of thing. But that pretty much completes our service delivery of the blinds and awnings installation. So from the sales funnel, we'll then move people into this point. So what we'll do is go back to our activity center. I just need to reload this page so that, now I'm just going to set the sales funnel to be the default flow when this page opens, so I'm not ticking it backwards and forwards all the time. And anyone in your team that's got a login can set their own favorite one. So you might have salespeople looking at sales, service delivery looking at the workflows, that type of thing. So as we have our leads in our sales funnel, we're moving them through the process step to step. Great, we've done the visit, done the on-site measuring quote, it's booked. Now that one's complete. We've sent the quote, and then Clark's happy. He's called us or emailed us and said, yep, let's go ahead. So I now need to move him into that installation flow that we just created. So just at the bottom of the page, click and drag, let it go. Now it knows that this is now a job, and for it to be a job, we need to start tracking the value of that job, who's on it, what's got to happen, things like that. So it's prompting me to create a resource to track this sale and this project. Now, if you, for whatever reason, have already created it by speaking with them on the phone and you thought, I'll put it in now, just track the pipeline deal, it may already be in the system and you can just link it up. But if this is the sales funnel, you're following it and yep, we're good to go now. Now I want to create the job, we'll just do a fresh one. So I'll say here it's going to be a blinds and awning installation. Now this is what we're actually selling. So what have they bought from us? If you've got a couple of different products, you'd put your product name here. If you sell the same product to everybody, think about what's a little bit different between one and the next. So if you've got a booking company, you might want to put the details of the booking or an order number or a job number. If you've got a web design company, you might put, we're doing a design or we're doing design and build. What are some of the other ones that we had in here? So virtual reception services, I'm guessing that could be either individual services within it, or they may actually be packaged up into bundles, sort of a light usage, medium usage, heavy usage. So you could use your resource names accordingly so that you can see how much of a certain product you're selling, how much you're not. If it's consulting, are you selling it one-by-one sessions? Is it strategic consulting on the business, marketing consulting, anything that you want? It knows that it's to do with Clark because we just dropped him here. If there's anyone else in the business that needs to be part of that, or even a supplier or a contractor that you've got as a contact in here, we can add those. So I'm going to put in Anita. Now I'm going to say the estimated revenue on this type of installation, say it's 50,000. Okay, it's just now the costs on here. So if you want to be tracking the total value of your jobs, we don't want to fall into a trap where we're looking at the top line sale of that job and thinking, great, it's all available. If you have costs involved with delivering that job to someone, maybe you've got $10,000 of raw materials or $15,000 of labor, contracts, legals, all this kind of stuff. But in order for you to get the 50, you have to spend X amount. We would want to put that X amount in here so we can find out what the real profit on this job is and cash flow that's actually coming into the business from it so that you don't get caught out later. So let's say this job, we're talking materials here, it's probably got, I don't know, 35,000 in materials and labor and things like that. So I'm going to put that in, which would give us a profit of 15 grand on this job. We'll pick a start date. So this is going to begin, let's say the 18th, and we'll say it's going to run for 2 weeks. Now, if you're selling like a one-off transaction, like a product or something that's given and sold in the same day, you don't need to put an end date. But if you're doing a service or a project-based type of product, then it can have a date that it's running across. If it's 12 months of consulting on a retainer, you might put a year in there. If it's 3 months of reception services, you might put 3 months. Now in here, there is the option for having a status assigned to this. So a status being you could have already won it and it's guaranteed and you want to count the money. You could have it sitting in the pipeline until you get that deposit paid. You might not want to count your chickens before they hatch. So I'm just going to put this as a pipeline. And we'll click create resource. That's done. It's prompted that task that we created, send the invoice today. Okay, we're done. Now from here, you might be wondering, where's Clark? Well, he's gone into a different funnel, a different workflow. So I'm going to click into that workflow and see him right there. Now, I actually want to go in and to the actual job and work on it more specifically. So I've come in here. I want to send off that invoice. Now, if you're using Xero, you can actually create Xero invoices in here. It can be linked to this. Otherwise, use whatever system you do for actually sending invoices. And we'll come into here, we'll go, all right, Clark, deposit invoice. Now, obviously, we've put in here 50 grand for the total job. That's not really going to be the deposit. So what I might actually do is back out here and let's say we're taking a 25% deposit. I just want to edit this revenue item and say deposit 25%, and we'll change that to 12,500. I'm going to pick a due date. We'll say, let's choose, it's going to start on the 18th. So I want to get paid before we get going to know that we're definitely on. So I'm going to do it like that. All right, so that's going to be in 7 days' time. Now, it's telling me we've got a loss, but that's because we took out 37.5 grand. So I just want to put in the rest of the milestones that are in this job. So if this is like a service that you're delivering monthly, you might want to put in, monthly service or January, February, March, that type of thing. Or if you're doing progress payments, 25% deposit. Then we'll do materials, order payment, something like that. And we'll put in another 20 grand there. And then we'll put our final invoice. And what are we up to now? 32.5, so we need 17,500, is that correct? Back to 50 grand, $15,000 profit. Brilliant. We could also break up those costs as well. So if I want to see materials, say we had 15 grand. I'll add another cost. Let's say I want contractors, they need to be paid as well to actually do the installation. Let's say that's going to cost, no, 20 grand. These numbers are really arbitrary here, but whatever's your service is involved in, you'll be able to do the same type of thing. So we're now still looking at our 15 grand profit. Fantastic. So we've got the task. We need to send off that invoice. I'm going to click here, send the email. Now you notice here, it's still got what I typed before. So I accidentally, I started typing my email and I had to go away for a second and do something here on the page. It still remembered what I had typed, so I can just keep going. Again, this could be a standardized email template, or if you're using the Xero integration, you'll automatically have a template for sending the invoice here through Ninjodo anyway. But I'm going to say I do this in a spreadsheet and then I attach it here. So great to have you on board. Please find attached the invoice, the deposit invoice. To kick things off, could you please organize payment promptly and let me know when that has come through? Any questions, let me know. And I would hit my attachment and find that, pop it up and hit send. Nice and simple, nice and easy. Once that goes off, tick off the task because I've already done that. Now, if I had been more elaborate in my workflow, I could have had an automatic follow-up on that. Just because you ask someone to do something for you doesn't mean they remember to do it or doesn't mean that they want to do it. But for you in your business, you need to know when the money's coming in. So I am just going to set up a reminder. I'll do it for tomorrow because I like to be paid quickly. And we'll do 12:30. Given it's a Friday, I'll pull it back to 10:45, make sure it happens, and save changes. Now, when that invoice comes in and the payment hits, I would then mark it to 1. Prior to that, I can see the money sitting here with profit in my pipeline. Now, this is showing me I've got 4 jobs sitting in my pipeline. That's just one of them, equating to 15 grand. And you can see it here. As soon as I mark that to 1, I would then come back here. We'll see some money actually sitting in this month. So we can see we've got 15 grand billed this month. We're up an awful lot based on last month, and we can see how our business is doing. And we know that we've got 8.6K left in the pipeline of other jobs that are still in our sales funnel. So if we know that that's enough, we can enjoy the month. Or if we know that we've actually got 20 grand a month in expenses that we need to cover, then we have definitely got to do some more billing and activity. So that is a really key number to have available at a moment's notice. So that sort of gives you an idea of how these sales funnels and the workflows can work and the type of automation, the task reminders, things like that, the structure that you can put in place. The Activity Center allows you to see everything that's going on in the business, where they're at, where they're up to, and it just makes business an awful lot easier. So if anyone's got any questions around that part of the system, fire them through now and I could jump around and have a look. And while you're doing that, I'm then going to start popping open and showing you the new mobile version of Ninjodo. So just give you a second to bring some questions through if you've got any. I think we're all good. If you jump into Ninjodo and you are having a play around, you've got any other questions as well, you can come down here and click here for help. There's plenty of articles in here, step-by-step guides. We're doing this webinar now. We're going to be running them every week. So there's a lot more training that's going to happen. And you'll be able to refer back to these videos as well. So to make sure you can access Ninjodo on the go, what we've done is actually start releasing a new platform. And you can currently access it just by going to Ninjodo with your phone. It will automatically get you in here. And I'm just going to try and make this a bit smaller so it's a bit more like a mobile phone. So let's say that's roughly a mobile phone size. Now I'm going to log in. And as long as you are using your actual phone to go to Ninjodo, you'll actually get redirected to the mobile site. And we've set it up. It's a beautiful new platform. Very, very clean, very, very easy to use. This is the dashboard. It's a little bit different to the main system. Over time, we'll start to update and adjust things, but you can see here we've got 4 tasks on for today. We've got 2 that are coming up, which is going to be obviously after today. So here are the 4 tasks. These are the ones we were just setting up, right? So we've got the phone call with Bruce Wayne today at 12. Already done that. We've also got the sending the checklist for the job fit, and same again with Clark, and we need to send an invoice as well. So we can see these ones are already ticked. They've been done. If I needed to see what was coming up, I can click on what's coming up, and that shows me the ones that we set for tomorrow, so those follow-ups. We can also come down and see the deals that we've got on our dashboard as well. We can see what's in the pipeline and have a look at what those jobs actually equate to. We can also look at the jobs that are more profitable for this month, which was the $15,000 installation that came in. So very, very quickly, what have I got to do today? What have I got to do tomorrow and the other days? Plus, what deals are we working on right now? Where do I need to have my focus? Anytime you see clickable links in here, you can jump through. So let's say I wanted to go and give Lucius a call about the 50 widgets job. I'll just click on that. Takes me through to that resource. I can see all the details. I know it's still in the pipeline. It's a bit of an old one. It's not due for time in the past. All the company details are there, anyone involved. So if we have Lucius or any other contractors, they'll be listed as well. We can see all the money involved with that job. And there's obviously no history yet. From anywhere in the system, you can access the main menu, top left. And you, at the moment, can access your people, your companies, and your jobs, so your deals. So if I click on deals, I get a list like this, nice and simple, nice and clean. It's in order of ones that you're working on the most. We've got the profit on the right-hand side and whether it's won or lost or pipeline. We can grab our contact list here as well, and we can easily click to send emails, easily click to do phone calls. We can also do our company list as well. Nice and simple, jump out to the website. And these are things that we're really thinking about when you're on the go. What's the information you're trying to get to quickly? You're usually off going to a meeting, you're looking for an address, you're looking for a phone number, things like that. So we've made it nice and simple, really quick to get to that information. If you need to search for anybody, just jump in here and say, all right, I need Bruce. And we'll go to that one. And I can see, great, Bruce, give him a Skype call, jump on any of his social media points, hit those phone numbers, hit the website. I know that he's in our current workflow for initial contact received. He's grouped as a customer. We know he's got an invoice pending, so I can give him a call about things like that. All the task history and all the actual note history as well. So especially if you're going across to a meeting or preparing for a phone call or something like that, and you need to find some of the emails or things that you've said in the past, you might want to grab perhaps the phone call history. So I'll get all the phone calls that I've had with Bruce and just review them there. Or maybe it's something that you said in an email and you can't remember when, so you just want to scroll through. Or perhaps you actually want to do a search and say, okay, I remember saying something about a checklist. So I'll type checklist, hit enter, and that's given me my one result. So light usage, really easy to get going. Within here, we've also got some training videos as well. So if you click here for help, these are some videos that we'll be updating. Things like this will be in there as well. And you can jump in and get a good quick overview of Ninjodo, see how to do the sales tracking, which we've gone through today, how to play around with actual sales funnels and workflows, adding contacts, things like that, importing contacts in bulk. So plenty of resources there. Once you're finished, log out. If it's on your phone and your phone's password protected, just keep it logged in. It will always be there in an open tab, so it's quick for you to jump to. But I'm going to log out on here. Alrighty. So that finishes up everything that we had to update you on today. If anyone's got any questions, fire them through now. Otherwise, next Thursday, we'll be running another webinar. We want to be running these regularly so that you can get your questions answered, you can see what's coming. Suan, appointments, are they connected to Google? If you have Google Apps in your business, yes, you can connect Google Apps to Ninjodo, and all of the tasks that get created or edited or deleted will sync up, not a problem. And that's the same that if you're assigning it to other people in your team, it will go onto their calendar accordingly. Assign installation to the team. Yes, you can do that within the tasks that are getting created. So everyone that's a user in the system, you can create them up as an active user, or even if they're just sitting there to get tasks pushed through to them, they can actually have those, and the installation, the dates, the times, the description, the agenda, etc., can go through to their calendar, not a problem. Sync from tasks. Can you elaborate just a little bit more what you mean by that? Okay, and product list for consistent use. Not quite sure what you mean there too. So just elaborate for me. And if anyone else needs any questions at all, I can jump back into the system. We can go through some demonstrations, how you do this, how you do that, not a problem. Appointment, Suan. And a little bit more information to be able to understand. Okay, in the job tracking area for the dollar values, yes. I might just pop this open actually while we're going through things. So we'll go to okay, going into the resource, we'll go into the one that we just created. You're able to track down as many revenue items as you need and as many cost items as you need with a date and an amount and the descriptions. Okay, and Alison, so to bring up a resource in the Activity Center, the reason that it came up was when we created the actual resource, when we created the flow in the back end, there's a new option here for the flow is for a person or the flow is for a resource. So as soon as you want a monetary value tracked, we want to start that as a resource flow. So by choosing that, as soon as you move someone onto that flow, whatever it's called, so in this case, we had the blinds and awnings installation, that was a resource flow. We drag someone onto the, to move them into that funnel, and it prompts us automatically with the pop-up on screen to have a resource created or linked to. So I'll do that again just to show you. I'll go into people. Actually, we had Bruce in our activity center. So if I move Bruce all the way through my sales funnel, step by step, excellent. He's accepted the quote, and I've now got my resource-based blinds and awnings installation flow, or my product send out, or whatever that may be. I'll click and drag, and I get that automatic choose a resource or create one. So if you already created it, I can link to it that way, that's fine. Or if I haven't got one yet and I need to start putting the value of things in, I get to do that there. And once you're finished, create the resource, start the flow. Any tasks that need to be created on that first step will pop up as well. All right, guys, given the time that we've run through for that, I want to say thank you to everybody. If you've got any questions at all, you can reach us via the website. We've got chat on there now as well. You can email me at simon@ninjodo.com or send tickets through via the help desk to click here for help, contact support, and away they'll come through. We'll get straight on things for you. So hope to see you all next week. Otherwise, have a fantastic day and looking forward to seeing you again soon. All right, bye for now.